Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Hobby Dude 007 channel. A little more progress on our Saturday night short track group build out of box 40 Ford modified. Got a lot done this week. Gonna plan on before the end of the day today having everything in a minimum of primer, most of it in paint. So our next update's gonna really be cool, I think. Starting to come together. But let me share with you where we are. Bring your model to life with MCV products. Visit them on the World Wide Web at mcvproducts.com. Since our last video, I made a few light modifications still to the body to get it to sit a little bit lower yet, just like that look. Also, cleaned up some of the separation lines where the sides go into the body as well as the firewall. There's still a couple of rough spots I'm going to wait till after primer to take a look at. And as you saw in the thumbnail, the mock-up, I went ahead and just did this after everything had primer on it. Still got some things to do. Overall, I'm kind of pleased with how it looks. There's a few things I am going to smooth out a little bit more, some of those lines where the side panels went in. And went ahead and, as you see here, all of the injection pin marks, I've got those filled with putty, smoothed out, block sanded, and a lot of the parts on toothpicks to be painted, so those are getting into the paint booth. And went ahead and mounted up some other parts for primer, and after everything was primed, while that was drying, I turned my attention to the shocks and kind of the suspension system. As you see here, these shock mounts that are at the top should be actually mounted to the chassis, so I went ahead and separated those, and same went for the rear. And you can see down at the bottom there where I removed the mounts. Well, I went over, sanded the chassis a little bit so those would mount up, got the shock mounts on there, and you see where you can tell where they're mounted. I'll show you when we get to the actual car what I did to cure that. And here's a look at the rear shock mounts after they're on the chassis. The other thing I did was, normally I would spray, especially if it's going to be a contrasting color, the interior first and then mask it off to paint the exterior. Well, this one I shot the primer on the exterior to kind of see where my mold, any holes were, and filled those in with some putty, and then went back, smoothed those out, shot it again, and then I realized I really needed to do the inside. So as you see, I've filled in the sides there with some putty, and I hadn't done the top yet, but wanted to get some primer on that first. So we masked it off from the outside and shot that. So let's get over to the car, and I'll show you where we are right now. The chassis and body are dressed out in primer. As I was mentioning, the inside I shot in a dark gray primer, a contrasting color, and everything looks pretty smooth up in here. I do have to go back now, and I wanted to see the depth of these injection pin marks. I'm going to go ahead and clean those up a little bit. But I think it looks pretty good. As I'd mentioned, I had opened here and here just a little bit more, so the body would sit a little bit lower. You can also see where all of those seam lines, and I've done some touch sanding, and I'll do this again where there was some filler up here at the A-pillars. There was a bad fit, and I've got another little spot here that I want to try to clean up. As you can see right down in there, that's kind of rough. I want to clean that up a little bit. But everything looks really, really good. I'd mentioned those shock mounts, and as you can see here, those are now mounted on there, and I took some putty where you had those little notches where they were glued on and smoothed that out, sanded that. I got a little more finish sanding to do here and here on the front and back to even that up. And right here, the rear shock mounts already in. And several of you guys in the previous videos were asking about the fact, or it mentioned that there's no connecting bars from the front to the back there, and actually there is, and it's right here. And That'll be mounting right there. And the reason I have not put this in yet, I'm going to go ahead and paint it while I've got it mounted up, but the reason I didn't put it in yet is the interior tub this will need to be flexed out just a little, and the interior tub will slide down in there, and it's a separate piece and is being painted separately. So that'll go in, then those top bars will be put on there. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with this. Next time you see this will have color on it. And where that body went on, as you see, the upper roll bar is just lightly, you can see I can move it just a little, well, maybe you can't, a little bit. It is touching the roof line now instead of having that big gap in it. But I think it looks much, much better. You see the body sits down now below the rear bumper. So this is looking good. I like the mock-up that you saw in the thumbnail too. Moving on to the tires, those were done in the rubber black. I got a coat of the surface primer on those. And by the way, every single part on every car I ever build has Tamiya fine surface primer on it. The reason I like the fine surface primer is it's just fine enough and thin enough, I guess is the way to put it. I don't know that it's thinner, but it does not cover up a lot of details. I really like this. The regular surface primer I use as well, but the fine surface primer I use in the gray, the white, and the pink, depending on the color coat or base coat I'm going to put down. Any of those three, they do make them in the fine surface primer, and I really like that one. The other thing we used was the Tamiya rubber black. I was saying about the tires, and you can see yielded a really, really good finish. There's one of the front. To my surprise, for a two-piece solid rubber tire, or excuse me, plastic tire, these haven't turned out too bad. I had mentioned before that I'm going to try to hand letter the Goodyear on here, trying to keep it straight out of box. But I do have some, I happen to think, yes, there's decals, but I also have stencils. Now these front tires, that is really small. Can't really tell it so much. I don't know if I can keep it focused. These letters are really small, and I'm gonna give it a shot, I think. And I don't know. If not, I'll sand all that off, and I'll go back with the stencils and airbrush the Goodyear on there, or I may use decals, but I'm feeling like stenciling. But I used to do this when I was a kid, hand letter these. So I used to use a straight pen and do it, and I may give that a shot again. But I really do like the finish on these. I think they turned out really well. Let's start here. The engine I shot in TS49 bright red. Got some cleanup to do on, well, not cleanup, but some detail painting. We'll do the oil filter, the starter, the bell housing and transmission, and some contrasting metallic colors. Do a little bit of a wash here and there. But I think this is coming along pretty good. And let's see. Let me go ahead and show you the chrome real quick. And by the way, if you have not used the Revell chrome, it's a little pricey, but at the same time, out of the can, and you can shoot it straight over. No black base coats, anything like that. Right over, and I shot this right over the Tamiya Fine Surface Primer. And I'll show you these first. This are valve covers, the Mickey Thompson valve covers. I'm going to do a light wash on those. And I went ahead and did the pulleys in chrome, and I'll do that cogged belt, if you can see it there, in Tamiya rubber black that I have in the bottle. And I think these look really, really good. The direction I'm deciding to go on this one is kind of like a museum of automotive history type thing, where you've got a lot of the old cars roped off, and I thought I'd do that. The rear and front, you saw in the thumbnail, these were in primer, and this is the Revell chrome. Check that out, guys. There's a rear. Is that not just absolutely great? And then there's the front. And my only drawback with the Revell chrome is it takes forever to dry. And by the way, while I'm showing all that stuff, there's the air cleaner. I'll go back with it, do the element in an off-white, and then do a little wash between the filaments there. But is that not just cool stuff? And I've got that on my little block there. There's the shocks and another piece of the mounting stuff that is in primer already. I'll be getting some paint on those here shortly, along with the battery, things like that. But these really, I think, look good. And let me get these out of the way, and I'll show you what we've done on the center hubs for those wheels. I went with another contrasting color, and I mean, even with that, the primer and the paint, you notice there's no loss of detail on these things. And I like to use, for some of this stuff, some paints that you might not think of. For example, the intake is kind of a matte aluminum, and that I use a lot of duplicolor engine colors and as well, and this one is just aluminum, and really great color for that. Another thing is the rear axle. I did in this is another one of the engine colors, and this one is cast iron. And wait a minute, I don't think I got them backwards. Yeah, the front axle I did in what is called cast iron, and that's what those hubs were for the front and rear here. Is the cast iron. That's what it's called, but it's a good metallic dark. This is, to me, this is more of a steel color, and we'll go back and paint the discs by hand as well as the calipers. The rear axle, and again, that one was the, oh, by the way, when you don't shoot this stuff straight on the bare plastic, always put a good primer down before you use this, because this stuff can etch the plastic, so be sure you prime before you use, because they're really a hot paint. And then the rear axle I did in same thing. This is one of the metallic colors, but it's stainless steel, and it's a matte finish, and I did the rear end on it. Now each one of these is going to have a wash of Tamiya panel liner in either black, and I've got dark gray, light gray, and brown, but I'm going to use the dark gray and the black to do a wash on this. So next time you see it, there'll be a big difference to this. But this is the stainless steel. But you see, and this is over primer as well. And there's a few little detail things on the brake hubs and that kind of stuff that'll be done too. And let me see, the headers. If you recall, we had a real problem with some of that stuff on the headers. I was not overly pleased. Let's stick that back on there. With the way they went together. So I've made some changes there, and I've got these. I'm going to unclamp them. I did this last night. You see how the collectors are nice and together now, and then we'll put our extension on that is in the dehydrator drying, so next time you see it, that'll be done as well. And got a little cleanup to do on some of this, but the collectors are glued up, and I'll sand and smooth that stuff out a little bit more too. The flange here will probably be engine color, and then the headers, I think I'm going to keep them white, which was kind of one of the big things of the day, was the white headers. So let's see, is there anything else? I think that's pretty much it right now. Next time, hopefully, we'll have the engine, and this is an out-of-box build, as tough as it is, because I see stuff that I'm going, man, some lines and wires and all this stuff with that exposed hood the way it is, with these little scallops cut in the hood here. So you'll see part of the radiator and the front part of the engine. I think that's just going to look absolutely awesome. Another thing I am going to have to do is, if you'll notice up here where the hood mounts, this curved bar here, it should fit kind of snug on there, and as you can see, it goes back and forth. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of heating and probably rounding this down a little bit, and also want to make sure that the hood is nice and flat, which it looks like it is. So I do want to just kind of round this down to get a really better fit over that bar. But overall, I think this is coming along really, really nicely. As I said in the opening, I think next time you'll see the chassis in its base color, and everything's coming along pretty good, pretty good. I'm liking where it's going so far. Again, I'm not going to paint the body until I get the chassis finished, so I'll know where those header pipes need to be mounted, or where the little opening right here is going to need to be for those pipes. Well, let me get back on. Right in here somewhere, the best I can tell is where that exhaust is going to have to come through the body, or arched right there a little bit. But I think that's it for the moment, guys. That is it. And again, I'll be doing a lot of painting today, so we're going to get a lot done on this. Some detail painting as well as some finish painting on it. About everything else almost is totally in primer and looking good. So we're starting to get on the downhill side of it. All right, guys. Hope y'all have an absolutely awesome Thanksgiving. I plan on putting something up, hopefully on Thanksgiving Day, or just a brief happy Thanksgiving. But I know you're going to be busy, so if you don't see that one, hope y'all have an awesome, blessed, and just a fantastic Thanksgiving. Guys, we love you. God bless. I will see you in the next video.